Thank you.
You're a professional. Okay, ready?
Yes.
Here we go.
This is Mainstream Metaphysics with your host, Nick Newmont.
Hey there, welcome to Mainstream Metaphysics. I'm Nick Newmont. It's another Tuesday night. Didn't it seem like we just did last Tuesday's show? Oh my goodness. As always, thank you to my daughter Milena that does that opening music. She does it for my show and Audrey's show too. And she continues to develop a lot of good music in her aspiring music career and still a student. Backing up for a moment, over the last three shows, I'd like to thank everyone for the viewership going back 3 weeks ago with Gina Ann, the week after with Inanna, then last week Audrey co-hosting Merlin with me, and a lot of good comments, a lot of good feedback. So I truly appreciate the viewership and your interest in what we present, not just for my show, but for Audrey's show too. And next week, my guest is Cara Ciaglio. Being Italian, I can say it the right way. And she, Ed's back there laughing. Well, it's true. You know, you have to know how to say the C's and the CH's and the CC's. And they don't match up as we say it in English. Next week, Cara is on, and we're going to demonstrate the Rasha device. And I must tell you, I've had 3 sessions on the Rasha, and the results are really incredible. And I actually know when it goes through phases what area of my body that it's working on, because I will ask her afterwards. Hi, Audrey. Hello. Thanks for watching. And I think next Tuesday, while I'm hosting and Cara is talking about the show, I think that Audrey has volunteered that she would be the subject on the big chair that Cara uses, that the vibrations go into. The Rasha machine is scalar wave energy. It's extremely healing, and it's some of the best healing frequencies, on the planet. So Audrey is watching in, and she may type in. If Audrey has volunteered to be on the Rasha machine, poor thing. Oh, it's too bad she has to be here for an hour on that device. So, and then I'm still trying to confirm, hi Becca, that in 2 weeks, comic legendary funny man Craig Shoemaker will be on, and then we have more incredible guests as time goes on, as we sit here this evening on May the 14th already. My goodness, we're halfway through the month of May, which means, are you ready for this? We are 4.5 months through the year already. Is that crazy, right, Ed?
Yeah.
Is that nuts?
Outrageous.
It's just Ed and me in the studio. I know Audrey's writing the things I do for you. Yes, thank you. So we have some events. We always have events coming up at the Newmont Center, and some I'm really going to elaborate on tonight. First of all, this coming Sunday, May 19th, at our center from 1 to 4 Inanna Draper is presenting Get Out of Your Own Way. So you can, anything I say, you can write to us or write to on Facebook to Inanna Draper, INANNADRAPER, and ask about the workshop this Sunday with her. Then on Friday, the 31st, from 6:30 to 7:30, Soul Surfing Through Your Past Lives workshop with Sandra Cindy Bloom. She's very good at ferreting past life influences. Saturday, June 15th, from 10 to 4, our longtime good friend Gary Stewart is back with Constellation Healing at the center. If you have not done Constellation Healing, treat yourself to it. It is fabulous the way that is played out. And then Saturday, June 22nd, from 11 to 4, Alexandra's in town channeling Golden Arrow, and I will be channeling Merlin. Really look forward to that. I love the interaction with Alexandra as Merlin and her spirit's Golden Arrow intertwine. And then we're looking at Focus on Success workshop this July. And then I'm going to talk about in detail sentient healing, more about halfway through the show. Okay, so a lot of good stuff at the Newmont Center. And also just a really cool shout out to everybody that works at the center. Of course, Audrey, she heads up everybody that she brings in. She's very good at recruiting, some of the outside facilitators. Dr. Michael McGuire, the acupuncturist and Chinese medicine doctor, who I've known since 1995, is there. Dr. Stephen Palmer, the psychologist, and we've got to get him back on either my show or Audrey's show. Ashley Carson, Amy Dalgleish, Justin, who does massage, and of course, you've seen many times on the show here, Selena Culp. So we have a very nice crew of practitioners with various kinds of therapy that they perform there. So a lot of good stuff coming up. So a topic that I like to get into periodically, especially this time of year, has to do with stocks and money. And there's a lot of metaphysics in stocks and money, because it's energy, and money is money is the energy of how energy is spent. What you put into it is what you get. And I printed out the charts of the New York Stock Exchange and the Dow Jones Index. Now, I have found that not everyone understands the difference of all these different indices that have a tendency to dominate or influence our investments. And the New York Stock Exchange, whose birthday is May 17th, 1792, are all the stocks that are the three letters, like AT&T, things like that. The four-letter stocks, Amazon, Microsoft, Apple, AAPL, those are part of the NASDAQ index. And we are at the NASDAQ exchange. We're not going to talk about those tonight. But we are going to talk about the Dow Jones, which is a combination of things. So, with the birth date of the NYSE this week being Friday, the 17th, it's going into, first of all, numerologically, a 30/3 year. Now, this means that whenever there is a zero factor involved, 30/3, zero creates an all or none component to things, which means that we get into a level of unpredictability. And then you could ask, well, what's the point of doing that if it's hard to predict? Well, it's a chaos factor, is what it is. And yes, there are certain components to this that we can predict. Now, The number 3 represents people, communication, problem solving, creative approaches to things. So for an entity like this, a huge industry, the New York Stock Exchange to go into 30 over 3 means that people are going to love it or hate it. Well, why would they love it or hate it? And that's because the stocks that they have are either doing very well or they're not doing well at all. And so we are in a time where there's a level of, I would say, conservancy is involved here. You know, when you look at the chart and the outer wheel, if you're not familiar with astrology charts, the outer wheel, the third wheel, this is the transits. This is where the planets are right now compared to the inner circle, which is the natal chart. And so we have to be very mindful of where Saturn is, because Saturn is reality, okay? Like it or not. Saturn is karma, fate, destiny, lessons learned, disappointments. And when Saturn is in the chart of a person, it brings about depression and pessimism. And Saturn has been in this area of this chart going back, some of it into last year. So what does that mean in everyday language? Well, it means that we have to be more conservative, because the 8th house is the house of investments. In astrology, the 8th house is called other people's money, amongst other things that don't relate to money, which would mean stocks, bonds, real estate, investments, lawsuits, insurance settlements, anything that you would call unearned money. So Saturn has a tendency to squelch energy where it goes, or we learn karmically, from the situation with Saturn. And Saturn will be in this area, into approximately the summer of 2025. So we have a ways to go with Saturn in the 8th house, and in 25, Saturn will sit on the south node of the moon, which is the self-undoing of the chart. Now, I realize that all the pundits out there have a tendency to, forecast trends and things like that, and it's based on a lot of different things. But I don't see what I would refer to as a collapse at the moment with the 30 over 3. I see a lot of the ups and downs. However, next year, when 2025, this time of year, when the NYSE goes into a 31.4 and Saturn sits on the south node of the moon, that's where we want to look at sort of an ultra conservancy, being conservative about the approach with investments, because the south node of the moon in anybody's chart, including a business or an entity, is referred to as the tail of the dragon, and that's the self-destructive past. Now, it has been, next year, it will have been, using the timing of Saturn, around 29 years since Saturn sat on the south node of the moon, which means that would put that back to about 1996, roughly. So we have to be very, very, very careful about Saturn on the south node of the moon and what it would trigger. Normally, it's a mistake from the past is what that would be, because people arbitrarily would say things like, well, back then the Dow Jones index was rising up. And that's true because it's based on predictions that I had made numerologically back at that time. But that's the Dow Jones, which we'll see that in a minute. This is purely the New York Stock Exchange, all those 3-lettered stocks. So what you're going to see with this chart, which is the 3-lettered stocks, is sort of this roller coaster effect of the up and down. And not a lot of growth or loss in this time period. It will just do this along the way. Now we also have to be mindful, because the 10th house is reputation, okay? And the Sun, Mercury, and Venus are in the 10th house, which means that this entity that we call the New York Stock Exchange is attractive on some level. But here's Saturn right on the midheaven, in the 9th house, but on the cusp of the midheaven. And ironically, my personal natal chart is like this. And when you have Saturn on the midheaven, that is called a Napoleonic Saturn, which means that if you are resting on your laurels and putting it out there and looking to your past as, look what I did, look what I did. If you're not looking where you're going to run headlong into something. So Saturn up high enhances the reputation, but it also means that when you're visible like that, you're a target, and when you're a target, people can take shots at you. So the New York Stock Exchange, while it has a level of visibility and popularity, it also means it comes under criticism or very high scrutiny. And I hope as I'm talking about this, everyone watching is able to follow along with me. Now, into the summer, into the middle of July, the planet Jupiter, which we refer to as growth, luck, money, expansion, in the 10th house, and this goes back into 2022 when Jupiter went into the 10th house. This would create an expansion, and the stocks in the NYSE have been doing well. But once Jupiter leaves and goes into the 11th house, it's going to take away from the expansion of this. So that has an effect. Now, also, and this is within the next week, the planet Uranus at 23, I'm using technical numbers here, at 23 degrees, 12 minutes of Arcturus, is going to sit right on Mercury at 23 degrees, 47 minutes of arc. This is in the next few days. This is happening. And we all know from everything you've ever read and studied and everything I've said, anything with Uranus is unpredictable. And as it sits on top of the Mercury, it's going to create the same effect as the 30/3 cycle. It's going to create erratic thinking, because Mercury is communication, how commerce is carried out, and how people talk about it. And so this is going to create mixed opinions once Uranus sits on Mercury and continues to move over. And then as we move forward and we get a little bit more into the summer, getting deeper into June, then Uranus is going to come over and sit on the Sun, which is going to inspire a certain amount of erratic behavior, how people's consciousness about the stock market. So if you are invested in the stock market right now, especially the 3-letter stocks, then you better have your eyes open, because we're starting to get into some weak and shifting sands. The other thing about this is that the middle wheel, this is called the progressed planets, and we pay attention to the progressed moon because that moves 1 degree per month. And anybody that's ever had a reading with me knows that we pay a lot of attention to the position of the progressed moon, where it is in the chart, and in relationship to the progressed sun. So the moon tomorrow is going to end its 26-month journey through the second house. What is the second house? Where money is earned. And it's going to go into the third house, which is the Mercury house, which is how people think, how they communicate. Well, the moon The moon is your feelings, emotions, and patterns. All right? So when the moon goes into the third house, means emotions start to affect how this entity, the New York Stock Exchange, thinks, if you want to put it like that. So emotion is going to come into play. The moon is in Libra. So the Libra is all about trying to create balance. All right? With Libra, nothing is balanced. Librans, I am, my wife is, Ed is, Becca is. We look for balance, but we keep doing ups and downs in an attempt to find it. So what's going to happen is this up and down behavior emotionally takes over once the moon goes into the third house tomorrow. So again, if you get my drift, we're moving into some tricky times where this chart is going. Coming up in the next couple days or so, Mercury, which is how we think, is going to go into the 10th house, which means there's a lot of communication, a lot of news coming out about the New York Stock Exchange, and a lot of things that referring to changing trends. And those are the words that you want to pay attention to if you watch CNBC or any of the financial networks. Changing trends are coming up here. So a lot is happening. Now, while the planet Pluto is retrograde, this means in terms of the day-to-day operations of it, they're looking to make repairs, all right? Because when Pluto is retrograde, we look to see what we can fix and what we need to fix. But coming back to the progressed moon, in 10 months, when this moon is at 14 degrees of Libra, it's going to start to square, or it goes into what's called last quarter moon in relationship to the progressed sun. And last quarter moon means that this is where we start to finish things. We don't wait till the new moon. That's down the road. Last quarter moon is bringing things to some form of commencement. So the trends that have been there for a while are going to start to shift, and we're going to see some very strong changes coming up with these stocks. Now, because the birthday of the New York Stock Exchange is this week, then we also run the solar return chart. And I always recommend to people that when it's your solar return, get in touch with me a few days before your birthday so that we can do this chart for your birthday, but also the time that's on the solar return is when you would want to meditate and visualize what you want for the next 12 months. And sometimes the solar return is on the day of the birth date, the day before, or the day after. And recently I've been reaching out to some of my Taurus clients, whether they're scheduling appointments or not, letting them know, this is your solar return. Okay, so the first thing that we look at in the solar return of the New York Stock Exchange is the fact that it's a Virgo rising and it's a Virgo moon. This is a double Virgo chart. What does Virgo represent? Accountability and being traditional and conservative. So we already get a hit that there's something going on where accountability and being traditional about investments with this chart is really important. There are no planets in the 10th house, which means that doesn't mean that it's bad, but it does mean that the reputation of it is not enhanced. Now, with Jupiter, the Sun, Uranus, and Venus in the 9th house, what's the 9th house? Well, spirituality and higher learning, but it's also foreign dealings, which means that the New York Stock Exchange beginning with the 17th, is going to be affected by foreign markets. So keep that in mind. And also, this is really powerful for those of you that enjoy astrology. These 4 planets, from Venus to Jupiter, are only separated by less than 6 degrees. When planets are bunched like that, so tightly, that's called a stellium, which is a concentration of high energy. Venus is at 22 of Taurus, Uranus at 23, the Sun at 27, and Jupiter just over 28. So this influence of foreign markets, foreign countries on the New York Stock Exchange is going to be very high. That means there's a lot of buying and or selling with foreign companies here. And we need to keep our eye on this as to what that is and how that looks and who is doing that with a chart like this. Now, with the 8th house, which is the one of other people's money in there, when Mars gets into money, you can make a lot and spend a lot. And with Mars in Aries, and Mars rules Aries, this means that there's a lot of compulsivity about the movement of money. Here's our friend, the south node of the moon, the tail of the dragon, our destructive past that we're familiar with. It's in the 2nd house, which means that we have to be very careful with this New York Stock Exchange as to what we are investing in, and our past mistakes going to be repeated. Now, this means a lot of people are involved in this, so it's very hard to say who does what. Saturn in the 7th house, okay? We have to be very mindful of what kind of agreements that we get into, especially since there's so much influence in the area of foreign businesses. So be mindful and be conservative with the New York Stock Exchange stocks. Now, we flip over to the Dow Jones Index, okay? And the Dow Jones Index is a combination of 3-letter stocks and 4-letter stocks. So when you hear them reporting the Dow was up so many points, that's based on 30 blue chip stocks that are considered a bit more elite. It's not the entire New York Stock Exchange. It is not the entire NASDAQ exchange. It's simply 30 stocks such as Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, JP Morgan Chase, Visa, Walmart, Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, Home Depot, Chevron, Coca-Cola, I'm just going through, McDonald's, Disney, American Express, Verizon, see, Intel, Boeing, 3M, see, Nike. These are all stocks that are part of the Dow 30, and they're doing well. So is the Dow, those selected stocks, the true representation of what the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ are doing? And the answer is no. They represent themselves as this index, or referred to as DJIA, Dow Jones Index. Now, when we look at the birthday, which is May 26th, which is coming up soon, in 12 days, the Dow is going into a 39/3 year, which means that good times, fun, 9 means endings. So the Dow is going into a time where you better enjoy it, do what you can, all right, have fun with it, because on May 26, 2025, it goes into a 40/4, which means that it's constricted. We go into a box. And the way I've always illustrated 40/4 is that we have a little box and a box 10 times bigger sitting on top of it and waiting for the ceiling to cave in. So this we have to watch, because, I'm being asked, all the time, is there going to be a collapse in the market? I don't see it, at the moment, but I do see that in 2025 when things are going to start to really shift, and we have to be mindful of that. Now here's the irony. All right, the New York Stock Exchange is a Leo rising, 1136 Leo. The Dow Index chart is 1120 of Leo. So the transiting planets are going to be in the same identical houses in both charts. So what's that mean? It means that the planets in the sky and the position that they're in are going to have the same house effect on both charts. But the charts are different in terms of planet placement. This chart does have the Sun, Venus, in Pluto in the 10th house, which is that energy of visibility. But we have Neptune and Mercury in the 11th house, which means there's a component to this where it's hard to read. You as the investor, hard to read, not for myself. Doesn't mean it like that. And in the 4th house, the natal chart, the planet Saturn, which again is for longevity and stability, is in the 4th house. So this chart is set up to create a certain level of stability. The reality of the Dow Jones Index is that if a stock is not performing, and you can research this on your own, they may pull it out of the Dow 30, and another stock which would apply to get in would be brought in. And through the history of time, because this index originated in 1896, obviously, is going to change some of the companies that are in there. So we have to be, again, very mindful of what we're doing at this point in time. Jupiter is in the 10th house in this chart too, which means it looks good at the moment. Uranus is in here for about another 7 years, and Uranus creates ups and downs. So the stability, is becoming shaky, and also we again with this chart until 2025, the planet Saturn is in here, which means that we have to be very focused on the reality, not the fluff that is presented, especially by an index like this, which these are all blue chip stocks. So we do have to watch, what we're doing. Look, everybody who invests, they either do it themselves or they have someone that they work with that knows this, will give them advice on what to do. My strong feeling as we go through the next couple years, and keep in mind that I am not a financial advisor, but speaking from experience, I would be looking more toward precious metals as a long-term investment. All right, so here's the solar return chart of the Dow Jones Index, all right? And it doesn't have the same appearance as the solar return of the New York Stock Exchange. We have Uranus here, which means that its reputation is going to fluctuate. We have Jupiter, Venus, and the Sun in the 11th house. And that is a stellium. They're within 5 degrees of each other. The 11th house is groups, organizations, hopes, dreams, and wishes. So with this, in Gemini, and Gemini is all about, talking, speaking, we have to be careful that we're not going by what's being said versus what's really happening. With this, we have to be careful of news being reported as fluff, or something being inflated where we're not seeing the reality of it. In this chart, the south node of the moon, that self-destructive part, is there in the fourth house, is where security is. So there's something going on here where the security, beginning with its birthday for that 12-month period, is shaky. All right? So we have to, it would say that it's not as reliable as maybe we would want it to be. The moon is in the sign of Capricorn, which is a heavy placement for the moon. That doesn't feel good. The rising sign of this chart is Cancer, and Cancer is ruled by the moon, which means that emotion is driving this, not necessarily logic. So for both of these charts, I would be very vigilant and very mindful as to where your money is going, astrologically and numerologically, especially as we get into the spring of 25. I'm not the kind of person that is into gloom and doom or anything like that, and I don't see a full-on collapse, but especially with some of these things I'm seeing, I see influences from foreign countries having a big effect here, and we want that to be for all the right reasons. So, be vigilant and mindful. Look at your investments on a regular basis and see how they're performing. And you can invest in a whole exchange, but I think that you're wiser to go and invest in any particular stock that you would feel comfortable with or know something about. It's not a good idea to get into things that you're unfamiliar with. All right, so that took a while, but these are things that I have been watching, for some time. In fact, when we go back to in the mid 90s, given my system of numerology, I had actually predicted to the day, and I believe it was in 1997, and this is in my book, the exact day that the Dow Jones Index would hit 8,000 and stay there based on the birth date of the New York Stock Exchange. It was fascinating how I did it, and I did it at a networking group that I was part of back in those days, and I came out exactly right to the day. So I use the tools that I have to look at this, and it's been pretty accurate. All right, so we're going to shift gears in the time remaining, and when we were talking about the events that we have coming up at the center, one of the things that's coming up is the return of teaching. There we go, sentient healing. And this is the course that I teach once or every year and a half. That's a very long program if you go through the entire program. And the word sentient means consciousness. And this is a 12-week program that begins Monday, June the 3rd. And if you are interested in doing healing work, and there are some people that have studied under me that are going out and doing prolific work. If you'd like to learn how to do this work from the ground up, please get in touch with me, because this course is phenomenal. And I understand that people are looking for a place to study. And talking to some friends of mine recently that are in the big end of the crystal business, they were saying that people are asking, where can they go study energetic healing? That there's nowhere to go. Well, yes, there is. And at the Newmont Center is where you can come to study soul level, fifth dimensional work. Right, Ed?
Yes.
Yes.
This course is brilliant.
Thank you.
Actually.
Thank
Brilliant.
you. Yes. This is very high-level work. I teach it from what I refer to as fundamental ground-level work, but it will take your game to quite a high level. And even if you want to improve your life, this is a course of high consciousness. If you're just interested in learning about the aura, the chakras, and you can see these beauties here, crystals, this is the course for you. We're in a time where people really want to grow in consciousness and want to learn. And since COVID, I believe what I'm hearing, that there are a lot of places that are just not offering things for people to get into and study. So this is it. And I've expanded the course to 12 weeks, going through almost the end of August, and there is an additional Saturday that's a full day, that's an addendum to it, where you can learn about crystals. And if you're only interested in crystals, then you can come on that Saturday, and that date will be announced. And I brought along some beauties for you to look at tonight, and I really appreciate Ed putting up the overhead camera. So this mineral, which looks like emeralds, and it's not emeralds, this is called dioptase, and this is a heart activator. And dioptase brings the joy back into your heart. It activates the physical heart, and I many times have referred to it as a fairy stone. And look at the brilliance of it. And this only comes from a couple different countries in Africa, and the luster on that. And the reason the sheen is like that is because these are very beautiful, well-formed cubes. The mineral is. So this is thank you. Yeah, I love dioptase, and I have smaller pieces of it that I use on people. This could actually, on the right body frame, this could be placed on the chest, or it could sit on your nightstand. But it's a major heart chakra activator. Then, similar but different, this is called venatonite. This is, because it's orange, it is a sacral chakra stone. It has that same luster, these well-formed cubes. This most good venatonite comes from Morocco. This stuff is just, when you see it in real life, just gorgeous. And the interesting thing is, because of all the different aspects represented by the second chakra, or called the sacral chakra, this is, it promotes conservancy in money, along with the healing of the second chakra and all it represents. Then, bring this in. We got this recently, again, at a gem and mineral show. There we go. This is halite. This is pink halite, and it comes from lakes in Central California. And this is very calming on the stomach, relaxes the stomach, very balancing because it's a form of salt. You get negative ions from it, which are very relaxing and de-stressing. And this is down under the water in the lake, and it's very spongy. And people can go and pull it up out of the water. When they put it in the sun, then what happens is it solidifies when it dries and forms these cubes of salt. See, there's the backside, okay, which is flatter. And the interesting thing is, it actually smells a little briny because it's been down in that water all that time. And these are all available. These are all for sale. Here is, and this is just stunning. This is labradorite. Labradorite is a third eye crown chakra activator, and you're not your eyes are not playing tricks on you. It moves from green to gray to blue to sort of gold like that. It is just lustrous and gorgeous. And when we feel that we're very caught up in time, losing time management, labradorite helps us overcome the limitations of time. Okay? So, and it's not expensive either, and it's polished, of course. See, the back side is not as gorgeous as the other side. So this is the side that you would have out, and these are in our display cases in our waiting room, and the lights hit them just perfectly. So these are some of the crystals or toys, so to speak, that we're going to be working with, as we go through sentient healing. Now, I always joke that I am not an artist. Okay. But this is the working diagram of a chakra. A chakra is cone-shaped, and it's not solid as if like a drinking cup. This is a grid work, and chakras are vibrating resonance chambers. They are electromagnetic, and they work off of electromagnetic attraction or repulsion. And so these grids that I've drawn in here, it's like the lint trap on a dryer, meaning that it will collect the negativity. And the chakra is really right here, the wheel that spins. The cone supports the chakra and spins against it. So they rotate. So the wheel is supposed to go clockwise, and the cone goes counterclockwise. And these blobs that I've drawn in here would be negative ectoplasm or negative energy that's built up in there that would slow down the rotation of the cone against the wheel. And the chakra grows as we grow in life, because down at the bottom is birth, and as we age, and you can see these red lines in here, those red lines would be aging, and we get all the way to the top, which would be the present, and then there's a sort of a pseudo-invisible circle that goes around that's called the unformed future. So your future is not formed or not experienced until you live it. And we illustrate in here all the different things that are part of the chakra. When it comes to the chakras being blocked, it's blocked by negative thoughts, which can be your own or be projected in from the outside. And that's not just someone messing with you. Sometimes the negative thoughts are simply what we experience as untruth, meaning your parental upbringing may not fit with you. So that would be something negative that builds up in there, or conditioning, or maybe it's something that you studied in terms of school, or maybe something religiously or philosophically that can build up as a negative influence, because we are born of love, we're made of love, and love equals truth. So the other thing that is very destructive with the chakra is fear. Fear is like pouring acid into the chakra. It's very corrosive, very erosive. So where we have love and truth, we have fear and untruth. And when there's a lot of fear that goes into the chakra, it's very destructive. It can actually eat away at the chakra. And over the last 4 years, as we gradually move away from a lot of fear-based mentality, which happened with COVID, more and more people are seeking out this kind of energy work to help clear that out. And more and more people are realizing how consumed they are with fear, even if they can't relate it to something. So, and of course, on a therapeutic level, like Audrey does these exercises with people in her workbook called Fear into Power. And when people first hear that, and I have used that too, they say things like, well, it's not really that I'm afraid, but you may not be saying, I fear that or I'm afraid. It's simply, what are you affirming that is fear-based or claiming that you can't do or can't attain? That's the fear that comes in, because that is an untrue statement. And that kind of work is reinforced and corrected with true statements and an action plan to correct what you view as the fear or the problem. When we go in and do the work in a chakra in this way, and we are using quartz crystals that are generators, long or stubby six-sided quartz that come to a point, we go into the chakra and we rotate, clockwise, and we accelerate the centrifugal force of the chakra, because when the chakra is not moving, it becomes stagnant, and the negative energy is able to take hold of it. Once we get in there and start to clear these things out and release them, the centrifugal force, helps blow that out. The other thing that helps with the chakras, especially if whatever is in there that's been recent and not as deep down in, is tuning forks. And in this course, we will learn how to use tuning forks and to employ them for each one of the chakras. There is a whole range of tuning forks called the solar harmonic spectrum, and it goes from low C to high C, and each one of those is assigned to a chakra as we progress up the scale. Each chakra has a note, and we will get into the see, I'll open this up so you're able to see this. Once we get into the course, we get into a lot of work, with the aura. What is an aura? Understanding that in a school, in a classroom definition, not just it being a glowing body of light. And we get into all the different components of the aura. We understand the etheric layers and what the aura feels like, because in this course we are going to get into diagnosing the condition of the aura. And there's an inner aura and an outer aura. Well, in the outer aura, all the different colors of what they represent. So for those of you who are able to see auras and see those colors, then we understand what the person or the personality is going through at that time. And then we also understand or get into what's called the inner aura, or what's known as the 7 etheric layers. And there's a full chart on that. And the 7 etheric layers coincide with the 7 original chakras that go from the root, progressing up and culminating at the crown. With the chakras, we understand fully the definition of the chakras. And there's so many pieces to this handout. We understand what's referred to as the vertical power current. What drives the energy that causes these emanations of energy to come out and recycle and recirculate? So it's not just about chakras being blocked, it's how powerful is the energy that you're generating. Nowadays, so many people complain about being tired, and it's because their root chakra, which is their adrenals, is not producing the amount of energy that it should. And when people go to their holistic doctor and they find out that they're part of, when their adrenals are not working as well, that their cortisol levels are very high. So we go through each one of the chakras in great detail, and that is spread over several weeks. We don't rush through. Here is a simple diagram of something that that was so funny, that I developed in the early days of teaching, called the victimization loop. And if you would see, and here is, it's it's sideways. This is the original drawing of the victimization loop. Okay, look how simple that is. And then with the different courses that Audrey and I teach, then we both, Audrey and I, get into reinventing the victimization loop and adding more components and understanding it at a much deeper level. When we talk about the throat chakra, we talk about the victimization loop for quite a long time, because that is playing a very integral role in today's work, and people playing the victim, feeling victimized, and so on and so forth. We talk about stages of development. If any of you have studied psychology, you know about Erik Erikson's stages of development. And there are etheric stages of development that we get into. The course, as it continues to move, once we've covered the chakras, there's another week where we get into the differentiation of the front versus the back chakras, which is a much deeper education. The handout, this handout has been worked on and redone through years and years and years. And then we get into studying, of course, the crystals. We learn sensitivity training. We learn the Merkaba meditation, of how to activate the Merkabas, which are the big energy sources, these big stars that propel us into the fifth dimension. And yes, as part of the course, you learn these invocations of how to move us into the fifth dimension so we can work on the soul level. We study the Hara line, which is the line of intentionality, which starts about 3 feet above your head and goes deep into the earth. And in this course, we put a lot of time and energy into the 10th chakra, which is the one that is down in the earth. It's called the earth ball. So that's the one that is being affected so much these days, especially since COVID. And that one seems to be blocked a lot. So this is just a taste of what we will cover beginning June the 3rd. And if you are interested in doing this work, and this will be offered on Zoom also, please let me know, because I am honored and proud to be able to present this course and teach it and share it, so that others can carry on this work as generations go on. And I'm very proud of some of the people that have taken this course since I began teaching it in 1999, which is kind of crazy to think that in 1999 I started this from the basics of what I learned, a few years earlier. And I'm very proud of the fact that my spirit guides have come through and given me much more information that has showed up as extra classes that we offer at the Newmont Center. And of course, once you get to advanced levels, there's a course that's even bigger on sacred geometry. So will your head spin a bit in this course? Yep. And that's why we've expanded it to more weeks, so you have time to process. So anyway, that's coming up in a few weeks, and I'm looking forward to have a lot of fun with it. And I can tell you already that some really cool individuals have already signed up to take this course, and I'm really thrilled to share this with them. And I know the potential of what some of these folks are going to be able to do carrying this forward. So well, that was a fast hour. We've got a minute to go. As always, I want to thank you for watching the show, Audrey's show too, the feedback, and and to the wonderful guests that we're able to bring on that are very interested in helping all of you expanding consciousness in society. We certainly need it, because there's a lot that is thrown at us that is either fear-based or inaccurate. and we want to get the good word, the truth out to you, so that you feel better about everything, and no matter what is going on around you, moving your life forward. Choose the timeline that you want to be on. When I was on the show with Inanna a couple weeks ago, and Merlin related to this a little bit last week, you have a choice of what timeline you wish to be on. And if you want to be in the dimension of consciousness, then choose that. You're not relegated to a point in time or position in life. You make that choice. Definitely meditate, get in touch with yourself, recognize where you are. Be conscious, awake, and aware of where you are in this time frame. Okay, so thank you, everyone. As always, I appreciate you. I will be back on next week with Kara and the Rasha Machine. And of course, going forward, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. I will see you next Tuesday night, right back here on Mainstream Metaphysics. And thank you, Ed Hunt and Conejo Valley Talk Radio. As always, I appreciate you doing this, being the vehicle. Thanks so much. Good night, everyone.